Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm Valerie Henning-Piedmont, Superintendent here at Brewster. I'd like to thank you for coming this evening and being a part of a very important presentation. We have two of our friends of Brewster, Doreen Lockwood and Kristen McConnell, who are from the Putnam Coalition of Communities of Care. They do a lot of really phenomenal work in the community. They've done a lot of work to support the Brewster schools, so I want to thank them for doing that. This is one of the presentations that they've already done for the school district. They presented to the Board of Education probably a year or so ago. And it was this data that you're about to see now, that they're about to explain to you, is the Prevention Assessment Survey, which is administered every 2 years to students in grades 8 through 12. And it's to monitor and get a sense of some of the behaviors that some teenagers are engaged in that would be very helpful for the adults in their lives to know about. And another really phenomenal experience is upstairs in the ILC, which is the Innovation Learning Center, former Library and Media Center. They have purchased a simulated teenager bedroom. And oh boy, the bedroom is full of things that shouldn't be in the bedroom. And this is a really, really important activity for you to experience and to see yourselves. And as I said, I always say some teenagers. And the more that you know, the more that you can, know what to look for and the questions to ask, and just to be aware. So we're really pleased to be able to bring this experience to you. We wish this room was full. We wish it was full, but we're every year. Doreen and Kristen will continue to bring these kinds of experiences and opportunities here to the district, and we'll continue to sponsor them. There's one other event on April 19th that we also hope that you come to and you tell your neighbors about. The presentation is called The Dangers of Vaping. You really need to come to that as well. That's at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be held at H.H. Wells, I believe, because we have an event here at the in the PAC, so we wouldn't be able to sponsor it here. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Doreen Lockwood, and again, I thank you for coming, and I thank both of you for being here and doing this for us.
Thank you for having us. Hi, thank you everyone for coming out and being here. We talk to 1 person, 2 people, 10 people, 200 people, whoever will listen, we will talk to. So my name's Doreen Lockwood. We work at the Prevention Council of Putnam, which is in Carmel. And we do alcohol and substance abuse and gambling prevention, and basically look at any high-risk behaviors that our youth do. And we also have coalitions in each community. But as Dr. Hanning said, every year since 2008, we've been doing a prevention needs survey in each school district in the springtime, every 2 years for grades 8 through 12. So we have real longitudinal data from the students in each of our districts and in our entire county. And that drives the prevention work and the education and intervention work that we do. So in spring of 2016, 1,319 students, grades 8 through 12, took the survey. Some of the surveys are taken out because there is validity questions in there. So if students answer those questions, like if they say yes, they did a fake drug, their survey doesn't count. We actually even ask, were you honest on this survey? And if they say no, their survey doesn't count. So some of the surveys are, excluded. And over 4,000 students in the county take this survey. It's usually conducted in English and physical ed classes. And what the districts do is they send a note to all parents, which is called passive consent, saying that if you do not want your child to participate in this survey, they don't have to. The survey is voluntary, so it's important to know that. And as I said, students can skip questions. They're not required to finish the survey. They're assured that it's voluntary and anonymous and confidential. So their names are not on there. We do know if they're a boy or a girl and what grade they're in. I think that's, and their age. That's the only thing the data that we collect. And as I said, some of the surveys are excluded because of the validity factors. Kristen's going to go over what we look at is the 30-day use of all different substances, so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about onset of use and entwine different things throughout the discussion.
Thank you. Can you go? Okay, we're on the right slide. So as Doreen said, we collect data on a lot of substances and risky behaviors, and we pull out some of the ones that are a bit higher in our county. So first we're going to look at past 30-day use of alcohol. It does measure 30-day and lifetime use, but we only look at 30-day use for purposes of this presentation. So you want to look at, we pull out 8th, 10th, and 12th graders because that's what we can compare to a national group of students that are surveyed throughout the country. They survey 8, 10, and 12, so that's what we'll look at also during this presentation, as well as to your, all the way over, you'll see data in Putnam County overall. So you'll see for past 30-day use, a nice decline for 8th graders for alcohol on the decline from 2010 to 2016. And I might add also that we're getting ready to survey next month in all the schools for 2018. We survey in the spring between mid-April to mid-May. So we will have fresh data for you by the summertime. So just to continue, and then for 10th grade, we've sort of seen them go up and down a little bit, but still if you look from 2008 from our baseline data, which is in blue, you'll see we're still slightly lower than that, which is positive. In 12th grade, significant decline, both from baseline data in 2012, over 60%, indicating past 30-day use, down to just about 48% in 2016. So again, a nice steady decline for 12th graders, which is what we like to see. Next slide, please. For past 30-day use of alcohol, we've seen, tobacco, we've seen some unfortunate issues here. We were on a decline, both locally and nationwide. As you know, there's been a huge push with the education for tobacco prevention, and we had on the local level a lot of programs that were implemented, and again saw a nice decline, and then slowly 2014 we saw a little jump, and then in 16 an unfortunate major jump up, and that's we are attributing to a couple of things. One, marijuana has been, as you know, at the forefront on the state legislature, and also nationwide with the legalization of both medicinal and recreational use of marijuana. And that has sent an unfortunate mixed message to young people about smoking, which has trickled down to tobacco. And the other more recent trend that we're all talking about is vaping, which again, the studies are new because we don't have a lot of data on vaping because it's so new, but they're showing a direct link between young people that are vaping and then the likelihood that they will then smoke or use tobacco. So that's why, like I said, we're attributing these increases to the tobacco use, and it's really important that we get the message out about marijuana and vaping and the risks and harms associated with that, and we will speak about that upstairs as well. Next slide, please. For past 30-day use of marijuana, again, while the 8th graders remain fairly low and steady, an unfortunate huge increase for our 10th and 12th graders. And for 10th graders, it's really disappointing because as you can see in your district, they were on a nice steady decline from 2010 through 14, and then this spike in 2016. And also 12th graders, even we saw a nice decline, and then here we go up again. So this is really a mixed message. One of the ways that we've been trying to deal with this, because of the mixed message that young people get, is to focus on brain health and marijuana, because we know that the young person's brain does not develop until up to 25 years old. And using any substance, whether it be alcohol, marijuana, or an illicit drug, is harmful to a young person's developing brain and can do long-term damage to the brain. So that is the way that we are trying to attack this at this point. But again, with the vaping trends on the rise, it's just compounded the issue of what was already a challenge with marijuana. So we are continuing to work on this. Like we said, all of the work that we're doing in the community on the coalition level is a direct result of the data. So we are using this data and it's helping us drive our work, but we have a lot more to do with respect to marijuana. Next slide, please. Binge drinking. Binge drinking is an issue nationwide. In our county, we're no different. It's 5 or more drinks for a male in one period of time, and 4 or more for a female. So that's when they drink very quickly to get intoxicated. So this is very dangerous, as we know. So 8th grade, we've seen a nice decline in sort of them leveling out over the last couple of years, which is a good thing, less than 5%. 10th grade, if you look at baseline from 2008, that's a significant decline from 32% down to 20%. Again, we want to keep that there, but it's nice progress to see them go down. And even the 12th graders, if you look at baseline data from 2008, a significant decline from just over 40% to just about 30%. So we're working on this, but again, alcohol is another thing that it gets overlooked a lot lately with the opioid issues that we're all dealing with, but really, and Doreen will talk about this, alcohol and marijuana are really the issues that's where people start, So that is where we are continuing to put our efforts in. And you'll see by the numbers, it's where the young people are really, that's what they're doing right now. So we're pleased with the overall decline, but we are still, not just in Brewster, all throughout our county, above the national average with respect to binge drinking. So it's still something that we're going to continue to address. Next slide, please. The past 30-day use of other drugs, so we have amphetamines, sedatives, other narcotics, which includes prescription drugs and heroin, and inhalants. So these numbers, even though they're low, we want them to be 0. I don't know if you want to spend a minute talking about some of these. Doreen has an extensive background in treatment before she came to prevention, so she will speak about some of these issues.
I'd like to highlight that we do have a very bad opiate epidemic in our society. I think everyone probably has heard that last year 64,000 Americans died from drug overdoses. Half of those were from specifically narcotics, which means the other half was from other drugs. And we have the data in our own county. 24 people died last year from drug overdoses, and over 75% of the people that died right here in our community from the ages of 16 up to the ages of 80, but the majority of them in their late 20s up through 40 years old have used at least 2 or 3 other drugs. So I like to say that the opiate epidemic shines the light on a larger epidemic in our society, which one of substance use. In general, because 88,000 people die from alcohol-related deaths and illnesses every year. And why am I talking about this? Because we need to pay attention to what we see in this data on a prevention level with children from a young age, so that we can begin to address the social, emotional, behavioral, mental health, and substance abuse problems before young people get into their 20s and they're not at home with us anymore, they're at work or they're at college, and they're moving what I call across the crosswalk into prescription drug use and heroin use, and dying because the heroin is laced with drugs like fentanyl and carfentanil, which are like 300 times stronger than heroin. And I want to say that not everyone goes over that crosswalk, because there's always someone in the audience will say, I did this or I did that, or in the 60s people did a lot of marijuana and LSD and alcohol and they didn't go there. That is true. Not everybody crosses over to using these other illicit drugs, but we need to pay attention, because I bet everyone in this room, does anybody know somebody who has died from a drug overdose in their community or their family? Most families are touched by this in some way. So we need to keep focusing on this. So while these numbers are low, that is still telling us that there's a percentage of young people that are using prescription drugs in our school districts and in our neighborhoods. These are our kids. And you see the highest use is in stimulants. Now, some of that may be prescribed medication, for like ADD or ADHD. But there's a lot of drug sharing that happens in high schools. And then in college, one of the biggest problems is the abuse and misuse of Adderall. And then they mix it with benzodiazepines, which is a sedative. And mixed intoxication is what leads to a lot of deaths. So unfortunately, a lot of parents will say to us, well, it's only marijuana or it's only alcohol. And I can tell you lots of real situations where I spoke to parents with their young person about their alcohol and marijuana use, and it was not addressed. And later on, I learned that, maybe a few years down the road, when they're in their early 20s, that they died. And no one has to die from addiction. This is a preventable illness, and treatment is available. So we need to pay attention to the full spectrum. And vaping is just another way of big tobacco coming in through the back door to begin to sell e-cigarettes and vape pens and mods. If you ever go online to see the amount of things that you can purchase, it's all drug paraphernalia. And THC is at an all-time high level of concentration. And you can put that, and you can also put liquefied opiates in vapes. And every school district we go to, it's a problem, because all they got to do is go like this in the hallway, or in the bathroom, or on the bus, or walking down the street. And a lot of people don't even know that that's possible. So that's just adding another, gateway. So please, I encourage you to go to that presentation on the 19th.
Can you go to the next slide? So this slide talks about perception of risk, and that's perception of risk of harm that a young person believes alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, or prescription drugs are a perceived risk that they will, have a negative result as a result of using the substance. So we want these numbers to be high, because we all know if we perceive something to be harmful, we're less likely to use. So for alcohol, we've been pretty steady, over 70% since baseline data in 2008. Not surprisingly, we've seen a slow decline of the perception of risk of tobacco, which was over 90% when we started surveying the students 10 years ago, and is now, dropped 10%. And marijuana, significant, as you can see here. We started out at almost 80% perceived it to be risky, and now we're down to just about 1 in 2 kids perceiving it to be risky that took the survey. And prescription drugs was not available on the survey until 2014, but we have seen a slight decline in that, not statistically significant, but again, that's over 80% perceive prescription drug abuse to be risky. So again, you can see here where we have some work to do. Next slide, please. Perception of parental disapproval is also really important, because we know that if a young person believes their parents do not approve of them, doing something or using a drug or alcohol, they're less likely to engage in that behavior. So we want these to be high. So we've seen a nice increase for alcohol, the perception of that parent, they believe their parents disapprove. And I might just add that the word perception is really important, because we all know that there's probably, we're all parents in here, there's none of us that would say that I approve of my child using drugs. But perception is reality for young people. So as we talk about the perception of risk of harm and disapproval, it's really important to think about the messages that we're sending, that the community is sending, that we're hearing about marijuana, and that's the reality for young people. So again, a nice increase for alcohol. We're at almost 100% here. At our last survey, maybe 97% think their parents disapprove of alcohol, them drinking alcohol. Tobacco, same thing. A nice slow increase here, but again, we're at nearly 100% took the survey believe that. Marijuana is a little lower at about 85% believe their parents disapprove of them using marijuana. And prescription drugs, similar to alcohol and tobacco, were at nearly 100% of students that took the survey believe their parents disapprove of using prescription drugs. Next slide, please. And perception of peer disapproval, we speak about this because we know that young people, that it's really important to them what their friends think. So if they perceive their friends, their peers to disapprove, there's a likelihood that they will not engage in that behavior. So alcohol, if again, looking from 2012, this data was not available before then. We were at, just over 50%, just over 1 in 2 students believing that their friend or peer would disapprove if they used, all the way up to now, almost 80%, which is very significant. That's a nice increase. Tobacco, again, like across the board here, but tobacco is significant, now over 80% that took the survey indicating that their friends would not approve of them using tobacco. Marijuana, like the other slides, we have seen an increase, but we want these numbers to be higher. We're at a little over 60% that indicate a disapproval. And prescription drugs, a nice increase, probably, again, with what's been going on nationally with the opioid epidemic, this isn't surprising. Nearly 90% said that they think their friends would disapprove of them using prescription drugs that were not prescribed. Next slide, please. So risk factors, these are really important too. The survey not only measures, the alcohol and substance abuse, but it also measures risk and protective factors. And risk and protective factors are important because they contribute to a young person using, in their behavior overall. So we want there to be a lot of protection, high protection, and risk factors to be down. So these are the 3 risk factors we pulled out that we've been looking at over time. Laws and norms is the first one. This is a risk factor, laws and norms favorable toward alcohol and substance abuse. Again, we don't really think that there are laws written that favor youth alcohol and drug use. However, there might be a perception that laws are not strict enough, or that it's easy to get away with using. Maybe if young people have been caught with marijuana, it's literally a slap on the wrist. The comparison I like to use is it's a misdemeanor to steal a shopping cart from a supermarket, and it's a violation to get caught with marijuana, which is a fine and community service. So that's just to give you an idea. Again, we don't want to punish young people, but we also, if we say that it's really not that big of a deal, if you get caught with marijuana, it's probably more likely that you're going to use marijuana. So again, availability of drugs is really important, and availability can be, for alcohol, can be, retail or commercial availability, and it can also be social availability. So one of the things that we do to address the commercial availability, like the stores that sell alcohol, is we work with the sheriff's office and we provide overtime funds for them to conduct alcohol compliance checks at all of the establishments in the county that sell alcohol off premise. So we don't have the funds to do it with the bars, but we do it with all of the gas stations and convenience stores. And you might from time to time see articles about that. We don't want them selling to young people, and I think over time they've gotten that message. And that's one way to curb the retail and commercial availability. The other part is social availability, which is really getting the message out that, not to serve young people alcohol for older siblings and friends, not to buy alcohol or for alcohol for young people. So we've seen an unfortunate decline with the availability of drugs, and that could be a number of reasons. We're not really sure. But again, I can speak to what we're doing about the alcohol. And finally, parental attitudes that favor antisocial behaviors, which includes alcohol and substance abuse. It's important that we look at this because, like we said, perception is reality, and we know that we want what's best and we want healthy kids, but sometimes there's maybe can be a mixed message or confusion about what's okay. Like Doreen said, maybe the message is it's only weed, it's only alcohol, they're not using, prescription drugs, not a big deal, we'll take the keys. That kind of thing, and that can really send a mixed message that is perceived by young people and their friends that, well, my parents think it's okay if I drink as long as I don't, use heroin. Sure.
I just want to add something about prescription drug availability. The opiate epidemic has been fueled by the accessibility of prescription drugs due to aggressive marketing in the late 1990s, early 2000s by drug companies saying that people could not get addicted to narcotics, which is not true by the physiological nature of narcotics. So it is said that there was a pill bottle for every person in America. And in our county, we've gotten data from the Department of Health, and we saw that there was a pill bottle for almost half of our population in Putnam County. So availability is like we used to say that you could get the alcohol out of your parents' liquor cabinet, so be careful of your liquor. Well, now young people and young adults, because we surveyed young adults also, but that's a different subject, the accessibility was from the medicine cabinet. So availability starts in our home when it comes to prescription drugs. So we encourage you to inventory, lock, and properly dispose of your prescription drugs, and also talk to your doctors about other alternatives to prescription drugs, for prescription narcotics, because it is not always necessary to take a prescription narcotic. Sometimes Advil and Motrin will work. We're not asking anyone to be a hero and not take pain meds. We're not into prohibition, but we're into safety and to avoid availability and accessibility. Here in Putnam County, we have a medication take-back day every November, and we have one on April 28th at the hospital where people can bring unused medicine. But in every municipality in Putnam, there is a medication return box. And here in Brewster, in the Kern building, which is where DMV is, in the lobby of DMV, there is a box where you can put unused medication so that you can get it out of your cabinet. And it's really important to lock controlled substances. And I can tell you from being a treatment provider for 30 years that when people come in your house, they may be your family member, they may be your friend, they may be the contractor that's working in your house, where they tell us they get their drugs is somebody's medicine cabinet. Young people sell and trade drugs. So we need to all be mindful of this so we can do something about that social accessibility. Because that is the #1 place where people start getting it. It might be their grandma's medicine cabinet, it might come over their neighbor's house. So just be aware of what's in your medicine cabinet, and if it's expired, if it's controlled, make sure you throw it away. And teach your kids that medicine is to be prescribed by a doctor for a specific medical reason, and then sometimes there is alternatives to that as well.
I'm glad Doreen mentioned that, because I was giving an alcohol example, and we've been doing a lot of work around prescription drugs, like she mentioned. We're also working with pharmacies to provide educational materials at the point of sale. So at the counter, you might from time to time see information about proper disposal, prescription drug awareness, where you can go to get rid of your meds. In the near future, you might see, information about our upcoming medication take-back day on April 28th. But you don't have to wait. You can go Monday through Friday during business hours to the lobby of the current building, as well as the sheriff's office and several other locations, and dispose of your medication if you don't want to wait for one of our events. So we're on the next slide, please. So this slide is, like I mentioned, there's risk and protective factors. So protective, it's really important that there are youth have high protection. So we pulled out, again, we want an increase to be, as a positive thing on this graph. We have pulled out family rewards for pro-social behavior, community rewards, and school rewards. So that's really examples of, positive reinforcement for good behavior and maybe participating in different activities and things like that. So we want these to be high, and we've talked to the school about these, and we've really looked at what they're doing and small things where we could all, what we could do different. So again, we have seen, for the most part, the numbers have been pretty steady here. For family rewards, community rewards have slightly declined. School has been fairly steady, but there are many pro-social ways for young people to be involved in their community. So whether it be through the school or outside activities, and it's really important because we know that they're engaged in those activities are less likely to use substances, engage risky behaviors. Next slide, please. We speak about gambling because it's illegal to gamble under 21, and we know that gambling is a very risky behavior and can be linked to other risky behaviors like substance abuse. And we at the Prevention Council have had a problem gambling prevention program since 2008, which is when we started doing this survey. So we have seen some nice declines over the years in terms of overall gambling, we're very pleased with that. We have a comprehensive school-based education as well as community-based through media. We're limited with our resources, but we try and get the message out there that gambling is a risky behavior, and it's just similar to other risky behaviors that we discussed. Next slide, please. Age of onset. So we know that research tells us the later someone starts to use alcohol or other drugs, the less likely they are to develop a substance use disorder later on in life. So it's the later it starts is age of onset, and like I said, it's good prevention when we're able to delay the age of onset. So in Putnam, we've seen the age of onset has gotten later for alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and I do have those numbers. We just, for purposes of presentation, you can see me after. We pulled it out because it's caused a lot of confusion when I put it in a table format, but we are pleased that the numbers have gone up, and in this case it's positive. Okay. For some reason my slides are a little, I'll just look at this. So alcohol and driving for past 30 days. So these are newer questions we've seen. So 2.4% of the students reported they've driven after drinking alcohol, and almost 15% reported they've been in a car with a driver who's been drinking alcohol. So that's a huge concern for us, obviously. We actually pulled out by grade, as you can see, the percentages per grade that reported that. And we are seeing like 8th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade is, it's over 17%. So what we don't know is who that person is. But regardless, it's a concern, and we work with Brewster, and we every summer implement the simulated impaired driving experience, which is an educational program, multi-component program that touches on distracted driving, impaired driving, and students are given the opportunity to drive an electric go-kart where we simulate what it's like to be impaired while they're behind the wheel. And this is one of the things that we're doing to address impaired driving. But again, big concern. The 2.4% is a concern, but it's very, very low. We'd like it to be 0, but the almost 15% getting in the car with someone intoxicated, we're very, very concerned about that. Yeah, sure.
We gather other data for people that are under 25 also. So we had, I think, 543 impaired driving arrests in our county last year, and 113 of them were for people under the age of 25. The overall number was, I think, 543, but under 25 was 113. So that was more than a quarter of the people that were arrested for an impaired driving charge were under the age of 25. So this is important for us to start working on this here. Now, 75% of people who get an impaired driving charge never do it again. But the other 25% of people do, and that's often a symptom of a substance use disorder, and alcohol and drugs impairing their life in some way. And again, we don't know if it's their friend or their family member, so this is important information, and we actually have some PSAs out right now on Comcast about impaired driving.
Can I ask a question about that first bullet? My concern with the 2.4 being so low is that just of the students that are in grades 8 through 12 that are 16.
I know, it's really not
Because if there's all these kids that can't drive yet, it's watering down the number of them that are driving impaired, right?
Right, the percentage is really of the 10th, 11th, and 12th, more 11th and 12th graders, not really the whole 5 grades, right?
Okay.
Because they can't drive.
Right, so the 2.4% of those that can drive, or it's 2.4%
Of those that can drive.
Those that can drive, great. Okay, so that's good to know.
And there is zero tolerance for anyone under 21 who gets arrested on an alcohol or drug impaired driving charge. They lose their license until they're 21. So it's certainly an area that we need to be concerned as educators and as parents, teaching our young people about not getting in the car with people and the dangers of impaired driving.
When we say impaired driving, we're talking about alcohol, marijuana, prescription drugs. Next slide, please. Is that the end? You know what? I read my last few slides are not here, so. Okay, so that's a summary of the report. It's really an extensive report. Like we said, there's a lot more information. If you have questions, you can see us after. You can ask them now. And we hope that you'll join us upstairs for the next part of the presentation, which is the Hidden Mischief program. Yeah.
On Dr. Dewey's presentation, is that something that we should bring our teenagers to, or is it geared more like this to parents?
These are separate presentations for kids and parents.
So this is really just for parents?
Oh, this Dr. Dewey coming?
He is on the 19th grade.
That's who's doing. Oh, please come see Dr. Dewey
I know.
because he is amazing.
But no kids.
No presentation will sit there to look for alarms and news. Because he's just doing vaping.
Yes.
Just doing vaping. I think kids should come. I've seen him speak at Arms Acres, and he spoke to the kids that were in their program, and it was very informative, and our kids need to know that.
Yeah, the PTA generously sponsored this, and originally they planned the 19th for parents and the 19th for parents and the 20th for students. We couldn't pull off the 20th in a way that would be helpful, or that would be conducive to him coming both here and Wells. So the 19th is specific to parents, and we'll try to get him back to do a presentation perhaps in the fall for students.
But seeing him speak about substance abuse and the research that he does in relation to that, it's very relatable for teenagers as well.
Right. It's up to parents. I'm just telling you the way that we organized it,
I mean,
the
he's
PTA
not
organized
going to
it.
say anything that these teenagers probably don't know more than we know.
Right. And you know what? He's going to talk about the damage to the lungs and brain.
And they need to hear that.
They
They
do.
don't realize how it can damage them.
They
They
don't.
think it's harmless.
They don't. You're right.
So I think it would be very powerful to see what he does as far as his research is concerned and to hear it from someone other than us.
Right.
Because from parents, it means nothing.
Right. So you
I
certainly
think it
can
would
bring
be
your
very- well, I am
your
gonna-
children.
I think if we're doing the district a disservice by saying it's for parents only, which I really don't think it is.
Right, right. No, as I said, the way that it's organized was for parents because obviously, given the increase in vaping, it seemed to suggest that parents were not aware of what was going on, and so that's why we chose to focus on parents.
And there's going to be a different conversation when you're talking parents to parents and to a presenter and kids to parents. He delivers a very different presentation to students than he does to parents. So there's a reason why I hear what you're saying, Lisa. I understand. Young people do need to learn these things as well. But parents are going to be more open with other parents and with the speaker than they would with their kids or their kids' friends sitting in the audience. And we know that parents need to understand vaping because it is skyrocketing and skyrocketing fast. And there's kids in this district and other districts that are being brought to the emergency room because they're vaping high levels of THC. That's been unheard of, like, historically. So it's a different conversation. And I respect what a speaker says. If the speaker tells me not, like, if kids want to come to our Hidden Mischief, the answer is no. You cannot So there is a difference sometimes in what a presenter will present to parents versus students. I hear what you're saying.
But there may be opportunities where we can work with the district to bring, a speaker for students that would be appropriate just for students. So we can talk more about that. We're also having our prevention conference on Friday, April 20th, which is 420, which was done on purpose, which is a marijuana reference that we will speak about later. And we're going to send Valerie that flyer, and that's open to anyone in the community that can come. It's at Putnam Hospital Center from 9:30 to 2:30 on Friday, 420. And there'll be a vaping presentation by a nurse from Sloan Kettering, followed by a presentation on impaired driving given by a sergeant from the New York State Police. And in the afternoon, we're bringing back for a third time folks from HIDA, which is a high-intensity drug trafficking area. They have offices, and Putnam is designated a HIDA county, as you may know. And they have a lot of information, a lot of intel, and they're going to be speaking to us about overdoses and how we can look at overdose mapping. So we'll send that out, but it's open to anyone.
How is it
How is
administered to
it administered? It's paper pen. It was paper pencil in 2016, and I believe it's going to be electronic in 2018. So we've been like slowly moving to that electronic administration, and we're hoping that we get a good response from them. So.
You know, before or after prom?
It was, the date was picked for, you know, I can't speak because we're doing it in like 10 schools, but it's between mid-April to mid-May. We asked that it not be too close to spring break. I know that at this point there's not much break where you're like looking at in most schools, but I don't know the exact dates like offhand. But when is prom?
May 5th.
Yeah, I can find out. Bruce knows.
I just wonder if, you know, because the alcohol we see going down, and I just wonder
Right, so
if there would be an impact.
that's a really good point, Robin. So one of the things that we do when we, you know, ask the schools to pick a date is we ask them to pick a date not too close to things like spring break and prom, because we are looking at past 30-day use, and it would be a shame if those numbers were elevated because of like one incident, like prom, or spring break or something like that. So that's why we ask that they not be at least like 2 weeks from there, but I can't speak to when it is. I don't know offhand.
Although if it's consistently done around the same time.
It's always done in the spring. It's always done.
Maybe that's already captured in the data.
That's true.
The parent required parent training that happens.
That's true.
Is having an impact.
Right. Any more questions? Yes.
You know the data on here was for 8th, 10th, and 12th. You have the data for 9th and 11th grades as well. Do you have any comparison?
We have it, right. We just, like I said, for purposes of our presentation, you know, we show 8, 10, and 12 this year. Due to limited resources, we are scaling back across the county to 8, 10, and 12 because there are national numbers that we can compare to, and just because we don't have the resources anymore to survey, you know, all of the grades. And most communities do not, but we do have 10 years of, you know, data for 9th and 11th graders as well.
So going forward, it's only going to be
8, 10, and 12, right, right.
And I'm sorry, another
It's
one.
okay.
What is the school going to do going forward about maybe offering different classes or seminars for students addressing these concerns with them? Are we going to be implementing anything more awareness to the students? In the school itself, would you like to do with health education, or would we be addressing it in that way as well?
Those are topics naturally covered in our health curriculum. Obviously, there are other assemblies that take place. I know when I'm during 9th grade orientation, that's a big time to inform students and try to discourage some of the behaviors early on. We have a mental health counselor here. That's one of their functions as well, to really make sure that we provide as much information as possible to students to discourage them from, you know, making some poor decisions. So a lot of conversation with them, which, you know, in the past we kind of swayed, you know, that was less and less, and I'm not really sure why. And I think nationally that might have happened, but now we realize that we have to have ongoing conversations with them and a lot of information so that they're aware that, you know, some of these things are not benign and they can be dangerous. So we certainly are committed to doing as much as possible, and as I said, bringing in Kristen and Doreen to make sure that we use assemblies and you know, lots of different opportunities to provide as much information to parents and students as possible.
There's a lot of things that, like, we work together with the school in terms of social media and getting the word out, you know, different Facebook and Twitter posts that can be shared, that are shared, you know, that small, like, bits of information, but that can be helpful because we know everyone's really busy and it's hard for them to come to things, and, you know, the school day is really hard to get, but we're trying to get as much information out there in as many different ways as possible.
We do have a presenter coming into the high school April 17th. PBIS, it's Mark Sterner. I don't know if anybody's ever seen him before. He's a young man that killed his 5 friends on spring break. He videotapes the entire evening up to the point of the accident. He's very powerful. The last time we had him here was 2013. Yeah. He comes out in an orange suit. He's arrested while he's in the hospital. He talks about that whole experience. I mean, he's very, very, I've seen him 3 times. And every time I walk away with chills. I've had my own son watch him, and he'll bring him up every so often. So my son's not really smart.
And that's a very teachable moment.
Yeah.
So when you know that your student is having a presentation like that,
That's such a teachable moment to talk about impaired driving and talk about what to do if you're in that situation with a friend who's under the influence or you have no way home. What do you do? So you have to look for those teachable moments. And in response to your question, really good prevention is not just talking about alcohol and drugs. Really good prevention is character education, which is integrated into the curriculums in all schools in New York. Because what that means is that self-esteem building activities, decision making, problem solving, teaching coping skills, teaching young people to identify what they feel and to learn about the resources that are available to help them. Prevention is not just talking about alcohol and drugs and that this is bad for you. It's about learning consequences and healthy choices and behaviors. So that happens across the board in every school district and in our homes. So it's important. People think prevention is just talking about a specific subject, but it isn't. But it is important to know the facts about alcohol, substances, prescription drugs, gambling. And those conversations are at school and they're at home. They start when we start teaching our kids healthy habits and healthy choices.
Any other questions? Thank you, and we said we'll be in the ILC right now. We're set up, so.
Here where you can see, so it's really good. We're still learning Kristen here. This is our Hidden Mischief show. So what Hidden Mischief is this is a simulated teenage girl's bedroom. We did intentionally choose to use a female girl's bedroom because a lot of us think that young females do not do the same things as young males do. But what we know when it comes to the high-risk behaviors of alcohol and substance abuse, females are right up there with the guys, misusing alcohol and drugs. And when we talked about earlier, fatal overdose and the epidemic that we're facing, there is no discrimination when it comes to alcohol and substance abuse problem. So we chose to use a young girl's bedroom to just highlight the fact that females use alcohol and drugs at the same rates almost as men do, and that just keeps going up. And so that's why we chose girls' room. So just take a peek at, you know, it's typical. Stuffed animals, a garbage can, gym bags, you know, a desk, hamper. So what we're going to do is kind of, when we have a small group, we take you through it and we let you find stuff. But when we have a large group, we kind of go through and show you what there is to find. Now we have almost everything in here because we learn something new all the time. This doesn't mean that every kid is going to have all this stuff or that your kid is going to have all this stuff. We're just doing this. This is a tool in the toolkit of knowing that our children live in our homes and they have stuff in their room that might be teaching us and showing us the signs and symptoms of an early intervention on an alcohol and substance abuse problem. So we want to give you the tools to see some of the paraphernalia and some of the places that young people hide things, and you will be surprised about the ways that people conceal and divert substances. It's quite creative. So we're going to be like Vanna White. So we have our desk over here.
So you see the notebook on the right there, and we
references. So you'll see on here, I mentioned downstairs, our conference is on Friday, 420, which was done on purpose, because we're going to be talking about impaired driving, and this is a 420 reference right here, which is a reference to marijuana. There's, another marijuana reference here, 710.
Yes, does anybody know what that is? 710 or 420? You guys know what 420 is? No one?
National Pot Day.
National High Day, right?
Thank you, Valerie. So if you Google 420, which I recommend that you do, you will learn that it's kind of the National Marijuana Smokeout Day. And 710, if you turn it upside down, is oil. So we talked earlier about vaping and how people can vape THC oil. So this is another drug reference. Google 710 and you will learn a lot about THC oil. And look at what your students have on their notebooks or their computers. Well, people really aren't using these big old laptops.
Yeah, sorry, it was my old laptop from college, so they could use it. Yeah. That's in the drawing, so is or is it in the, well, we'll go back to it. We'll just go back to it. And then do you want me to go
Okay, so this is an innocent looking backpack, right? Cute little kitties. We'll get back to the kitties in a minute. But inside of here is what looks like a Mountain Dew bottle, right? We've all seen these. This goes off.
Oh, man.
We got some drugs in here. This is sugar, by the way. An empty bag. Maybe they use some, or maybe they're selling it and they have an empty bag in it. So this is in the backpack. You can buy this online or in any number of stores in the mall.
And same with the Arizona green tea, this lid comes off and you can hide, there's a container inside where you can hide drugs.
So again, what looks like an ordinary bedroom with a bottle of soda or an iced tea can be a concealed item. Also in the backpack we have a pill bottle, not real pills in here of course. Has nobody's name on it or nothing on it. And sometimes it's not mine, it's somebody else's. I think we've all heard that story before. Cupcake, this might be like perfume of a nice girl. It's not. It's vape juice. The vape juice all looks like cute, Cupcake smells nice, maybe it could be room air freshener. This is in the backpack. We have some batteries and a lighter. Sometimes paraphernalia is kept together and sometimes it's kept separately, so to kind of throw us off. These batteries are concealment batteries, so you can actually open these up. Maybe.
Want to use one of these?
Yeah, sure. So again, you might see something like this and think it's just a pack of batteries.
Fill these. They're like little cartridges you can fill with like loose pills or drugs.
And lighters, you might see like a lot of lighters around, and if your children don't smoke cigarettes, we don't know what are they doing with the lighter, and we'll talk about that later. And then in the zip part of the backpack, we have some Visine. We all know what people use this for, right? Some Jolly Ranchers. Does anybody know what a Jolly Rancher could have to do with like getting high or intoxicated in any way? Perhaps, I don't know. That might be true. That's not what we have. But that's a good, we have to check that out. Okay, so we go back to this Mountain Dew. So there's something called Purple Drink. Did anybody ever hear about that? It's in a lot of songs. So what young people do is they mix this with NyQuil, which has a high percentage of alcohol. It doesn't taste very good. So they put the Mountain Dew and the NyQuil and these in there so it tastes better. So you may find Jolly Ranchers all around, Mountain Dew, and in the desk we have some NyQuil. Also in here we have the Visine, and we have an Altoids case. So we think, oh, Altoids, we all like Altoid mints, right? So in here we have another lighter, a fake joint of course, and rolling papers, all in the backpack, looking very innocent. Now, the cat. We learned about this recently. Does anybody know anything about the cat with the psychedelic sunglasses? Go online and Google the cat with psychedelic sunglasses. It also is a reference to being high and being stoned and, you know, hiding your eyes. And there's lots of clothes, backpacks, hats, shirts that have the cat on it. And we would think like, oh, my daughter likes cats. That's really cute. We have a cat. Well, take a look at all the other stuff that you like.
Your favorite thing? This hat. I thought you were gonna wear it. Sometimes she wears it.
So I do like this hat. It's very 70s. So this is an innocent little denim hat with a little zipper in the front. We didn't put anything in the front because we thought that might be too obvious. But we turned to the little side pocket and we have another stash. So clothing. Did you guys know that skateboard shoes have in the lip of a skateboard shoe, there's little concealment pockets? Did anybody know that? I bought my son skateboard shoes for years. I never knew about that until I had this training. So skateboard shoes in the lip have a little concealment pocket in it. So if any of you have boys, go home and check out their skateboard sneakers and see if there's a little lip inside of it. Well, no, in the lip, the tongue of the, yeah. No, just skateboard, like Vans, DC, you know, turn over the tongue and there's little, yeah. Lots of clothing has zippers and pockets. Now that could be innocent, I mean it is fashion, but I'm just saying that there are other possibilities besides fashion that our kids are using.
So this just looks like a little decoration, like glass elephant. Oh, my kids like elephants, they like animals. Right. If you look closer, it is a pipe.
And it matches our tapestry, by the way.
Right.
I tried to make this pretty. And then more lighters.
There's a lighter around here. And I have this one actually in here. So we didn't put, Jim. So this is what we call marijuana pen. It's kind of vape, and this is one of the things the schools have been really having a hard time detecting. They have no smell, no smoke, so students are, you know, like hold them quick. They can put them like right on their sleeve, and these can actually be filled with, you know, vape juice like this one is, but it can also have marijuana.
And those
Right.
cost $50, by the way. A lot of this paraphernalia costs a lot of money. So
And
we
this-
would wonder sometimes where our young people are getting that money.
You sell this, it just says Girl Scout cookie on it, and it says Dapper Pen. So like really quick, like you might see a Girl Scout cookie, you know, like you're not, it's like they do that on purpose. They make it look attractive and it does not look like
Excuse me, are those sold online or at stores?
You can buy them online and in stores.
Stores?
Yeah, small shops.
Right.
You have to be a
This is
certain
grinder,
age.
You know, to grind is 18.
Be the deli.
You're supposed to be 18 to buy them. Okay.
Yeah, you are.
But the kids in the store, I imagine. So kids going to the store, I just recently went to one and investigated myself, but kids, the 18-year-olds are going in and buying it bulk and then bringing it
Selling
back.
them to the younger kids. It's commerce at its best. And again, big tobacco coming around the back door. We did all that progress that we saw in the P&A data, decreasing the number of young people smoking. Here they come with all this new, starting out as an e-cigarette that's supposed to help people stop smoking. And it does legitimately help some people stop smoking in adults. But I encourage you to go online and look up vaping or go into one of the vape shops and just look at all of the paraphernalia that's in
Thank
there.
you.
This is a grinder where you grind the bud, so you might look at this and just like be like, again, like some of this stuff looks so benign, but it's in your daughter's sneaker, in her gym bag.
on the desk. So over here we have a binder. This is my word. This is legit water.
Yeah. But sometimes you never know what they're putting in their water.
And we have what looks to be a dictionary, and it's actually, you know, when you look it up, it's a safe.
And the key is in the shoebox on the bed. The key is not not
Yeah, the key's
somewhere
not open.
obvious, it's in the shoebox under the
Hey, kids cut out most of the pages too and stuff in there.
Yes, sometimes people cut out pages and make squares and books.
So in here, we have a bunch of things I will take out. I'm actually holding the Jewel, because I knew this was coming up. So this is like, you haven't heard, this is the Jewel is like the most popular vape for young people right now. It's trendy, it looks like a flash drive, type of thing.
Coming color.
This is the charger for it, which when we showed the laptop, we didn't mention it. So this is actually the charger to make, for the cartridge, and then the cartridges are right here.
And there's people that believe that the pod of the Jewel cannot be tampered with and taken out and put oil in. That is not true. You can't do that.
So a Jewel starter pack would be this, the charger, USB charger, and a set of 4 is $50 online. And if they can't get it online, you can go to the Jewel website and actually did some mapping with it recently and find out, put in your zip code and see all the local gas stations and smoke shops that carry the Jewel. So what's concerning is we know there are several smoke shops in the county, but in addition, there are gas stations selling, like a condensed version of paraphernalia, but the Jewels are really big and most of them, I think there's a total of 11 that I can find selling them, right?
There's a very similar pen to that one, and it's only 50.
It's a little cheaper. And then we also have some marijuana.
And also when we were, can you hold that up? So when we were making our drugs that are fake, my colleagues were like, that's too much. And I was like, no, it's not, because your young person could be selling drugs. So if you find drugs in your young person's room and there's a larger quantity of it, they may be in fact selling drugs to their peers. And I think that's really important for us to know as parents, because it's not always just about using, sometimes it is also about selling. So I taught them a little lesson.
So, right, just to show you, so it goes in there, and then in the computer.
And when we had our training on this, that was sitting there for an hour while we were having our training, and
none of us even
realized.
Not like this, just like this.
The trainer, who is our colleague and friend, was like, "Do you guys notice anything else?" And we were like,
and then these are the cartridges that you exchange out for the new cartridge. And they have a lot of flavors. This is a cool cucumber limited edition flavor.
and again, sometimes paraphernalia is together and sometimes it's not. And there's a lot of different books you could buy. It doesn't have to be a dictionary. It could be a novel. It could be a notebook. Again, go online and look up concealment or diversion items. You will be amazed. We'll show you some more slides, but.
And you can come look at these after more closely. Okay, so we showed you how we do this.
Anybody know what that is?
Coaster.
That's what they want
So
you to
that's
think.
what's called a dab mat. Okay, so dabbing is a process by which they make the marijuana into what's called wax, little wax balls. I can take a picture of that.
Yeah.
So it's just another way to use marijuana. So there are tools that are used, and that is a mat that's used, and we just wanted it to look pretty like the rest of the room, so mom and dad or a caregiver would just think, oh look, this matches the texture.
Oh, they're using a coaster. We're so
There's
happy
a
that
coaster that's just so you don't ruin my furniture. But it's really a dab mat used to, mix their marijuana dab.
And this just looks like a ball of some sort.
Pokemon Go, Pokemon
Right.
are really popular.
But it's
some
actually
Pokemon
a-
things are chargers. That's another grinder.
The grinder.
So this is my hairbrush. I gotta do my hair, So this comes off, and I can have a stash in here. I can also have a little tube of alcohol in here if I want to. And there's my trusty box that looks quite innocent that my new iPhone came in, save our box. But inside the box is a little dab tool. Another little dab tool. That's where you put the oil in and you make it and you put it on the little mat. So again, something that looks quite innocent that any of us might have here's another dab mat, because this came as a little kit. You could go online and have a dab kit.
For like $12.
So they were like $12 online. And then we found our trusty iPhone case. Again, looks totally innocent.
Some that you showed, but you did mention that well, you know, like Dory mentions. Yeah, sure. And this right here, like, it looks like.
So it used to be 25%. I think they changed it. It's not telling me on this one. So again, beware of the NyQuil. And DayQuil has no alcohol in it, and it works just as well, by the way. So they tell you they can down it, but they don't.
This is the e-juice to fill, you know, mod, vape, and again, at a quick glance, it just kind of looked like perfume or like some sort of like skin oil, you know.
And now your innocent tampon, sorry everybody, but you know, this isn't a concealment one, but they sell tampons that you can actually open, and the tampon has a receptacle to put alcohol in. We just haven't bought that one yet, so we just show you the real thing. So again, an innocent item that our daughters want.
And then perfume, we just show this because while they do use perfume, and talking with another administrator from a different district, he was pointing out a lot of the young girls are vaping in school, and then they think they see them, and then they approach them, and they quickly put on perfume or hand lotion. So I actually put in like a small one. He said you'll find like small ones. That's them trying to conceal any smell if they were smoking marijuana or something. So he just pointed that out to me recently. Look for like small bottles of perfume or small bottles of Bath and Body Works lotion, like in their backpacks and stuff. A lot of times they're concealing smell.
Oh, rug. Here's our rug. Our trusty little rug looks innocent, right? Innocent little rug. Well, we could put drugs anywhere. And these bags, by the way, where we got these bags, these little baggies are all from clothing. When you buy clothes, they give you extra buttons in those bags. So I just saved all my clothing bags, and so did one of my colleagues at the office. So that's what we used for our drugs. To you know, put them in.
And you do enter the backpack.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is a pencil case I got at the grocery store for like $2, and I saw it and thought, oh, this was not just, I saw it to definitely hide something in here. And one of our vape mods fit perfectly inside of it. So this one was expensive. It was confiscated at another school, so like they gave it to us, so we wouldn't have to spend money. It's like $200 or yeah, it's expensive.
These are like collectibles. Like again, go online and look up vaping mods. They come in different shapes and sizes. There's skins that you could buy to decorate them. Right. So it's really all like marketing and branding and kind of making it appealing and cool. And when people vape, they have like these parties where they make clouds of their vapes. So it's really very, it's come to the presentation. No, did you?
Yeah. The jewel, we went through the jewel already, and just point this out because we also have it in there, plugged into the wall, into your iPhone. It fits right into the iPhone charger, so we just wanted to show you that, just in case you see that in an outlet somewhere.
Oh, can you the tapestry on the wall is pretty, right?
Yes.
On the right side top.
Yeah. So behind posters, drugs there. There.
And also, we have an innocent little picture frame. So we'll turn the picture frame around. We open the picture frame up.
Oh, and in the binder, there's.
And when we were trained, they put the drugs on the back of the frame, and I was like, oh no, that's not where they're hiding it. It's going on the inside.
So there's a couple of drug references here, as you can see. There's Getting High, and then there's Bottle of Fireball.
Behind the binder. Innocent, our clothes are hanging out, you know, pockets. Pockets are a great place to find stuff. We have some more Jolly Ranchers. And yeah, your kid might just like Jolly Ranchers, but when you find all the things together and multiple lighters, I'd say, you know, maybe something else is going on.
And then also the hamper, we got this shirt, again, yeah, the kitty with the glasses. So, you know, the idea for this in a small group is we would say, okay, your son or daughter just went into the shower, you have 6 minutes to look through their room, see how many things you can find.
Yeah.
So, because we didn't do that here, but you can, you know, very quickly try to go through, but don't disregard things like hampers, or did you go through the socks?
Shoe boxes. Yeah, we have to slide on the gym.
Did you go in the shoe box?
So,
We have some more babes here.
So, and in the gym bag, there's socks, multiple pairs of socks.
This is a fancy lighter.
Yeah, and socks could be a great place to hide drugs too.
Right, they're folded up.
And also, if you look at drug references, you might find marijuana leaves, oil symbols. There's so we'll go into some more.
Yeah.
We're missing some songs. We've got the teddy bear too. Anybody know the old stuffed animal trick? So Teddy, you know, holding some stash. Just open a few stitches and put it in. And the garbage can.
Oh, yes.
Has a Four Loko has a high percentage of alcohol in it. The jewel wrapper, cigar wrapper. Sometimes our young people mix marijuana with cigars.
Where they unroll it and they use the
unroll it
papers
and they
to
use
roll
the
a joint.
papers. And so you don't see the smoke. They blow it in here. It's your
That's a
toilet
dryer
bowl,
sheet.
toilet paper thing, and a dryer sheet, and a rubber band. You might be like, what are they doing, a school project or something? No, they just don't want you to see smoke.
That's it.
Oh, no. Oh, where's mine? You don't have an outlet here, but so outlet covers are also a good place to hide things. So this is obviously screwed into the wall, but I can unscrew this and I can hide things behind it in the wall. Also my mattress, this is an air mattress, so it's not double. But if I am hiding my own stash or if I am selling drugs, I may lift up my mattress and make a slit in it, and I may hide my drugs in there, and you'll never know, because if you lift up my mattress to my box spring, you're not going to see anything because I slid it where you can't see it, but enough for me to put my hands up there and get what I need. This I learned when I worked in rehab, because the young people would break stash and hide it. This is just an example of the different items that can be sold. It could be a household cleaner, food, rocks, all these different household products. We looked up diversion safe, and this is what comes up. So all of these items, which could be innocent in your house, in your teenager's room, or even in your student's college dorm, could be places where things are hidden. These are other examples, behind your iPad, candle, that's another one, outlet thing, couch strap. Money can be hidden there, jewelry can be hidden there, any kind of stationery is hidden there. Okay, this we just learned about yesterday. Okay, so you all seen Geraldine candy before, those wrappers. Okay. So apparently, this one, Punch Combo, is being sold in California. It's an edible. Okay, so there's high levels, 2.25 milligrams of cannabinoids in there. That is being produced in California and shipped to New York. And our sheriff's department recently found this in our area, being sold in our area. And we put it up there with the real square. And they're actually, we have to go buy one, but there are actually real Ghirardelli squares that are the same color. So be careful when you're looking at candy. Is it real or is it an edible? And this is a special concern if you have young children in your house, because poison control in the states where marijuana is recreationally and even medicinally available, seeing higher rates of calls to poison control because children are eating edibles and they don't know what it is, because a little piece of that is high packed with THC. So this is something really new, but we learned about yesterday, so we put it right in our presentation. This is just, all the different kinds of paraphernalia. And again, concealment items. kids are alcohol specific, so, you know, again, look, a baby doll, alcohol, a flask inside of what looks like, you know, the plastic ice cube, inside your shoe. These are just references, again, oil, an oil rig, so a reference to THC oil, a reference to dabbing. And these are taken from different clothing stores, so there's a lot of clothes that have, and I want to say that just because your child may have a marijuana leaf on their clothing, that doesn't mean that they're smoking marijuana. Some of it just is a fashion statement. But if you're finding other references and you're seeing behavioral signs and symptoms and visible signs of impairment coupled with clothing that has drug references, you want to maybe be a little concerned. If your child just has a t-shirt with a cat with psychedelic glasses on it and you have no other reason to be concerned, you know, don't be concerned. And sometimes our kids just want to get us mad, so they'll have some of this stuff around just to be like, giving it to us. Or the cat high on life. And this is, I think this is Spencer's. And it's just smoke, 420, highline, and all their paraphernalia, concealment items. Go in stores like Spencer's, go in the vaping shops. What's the other one? The Zuni, the mall. They have the skateboard sneakers and some other items. Also, online apps, okay, so there are so many apps online that you can find out about Leave Social Network, how to grow hydroponics. There's just so many, where you can find things. The internet is just the playground to find everything. And these are just some more apps, how to grow it. There's also, there's like actually a dating app, like if you want to date people that smoke weed, you can go on just in case you want to know. Yeah, I think we had it.
Yeah, the high need a stoner honey or a high guy when you're stoner.
Yeah.
Great way to start a relationship.
Modern technology. Oh, okay, so we wanted to show, this is a tool to be aware of these different items, different things. And so I didn't want to talk about that and really not talking about some of the signs and symptoms. These are specific to opiates because that is a pressing issue right now. But hardly anybody starts off by using heroin. I've been a treatment provider for 30 years. Hardly anyone starts out using heroin. There's usually warning signs before that. Substance use disorders are a progressive illness. And you want to pay attention to the onset of use, and you want to pay attention to the vaping, the tobacco, the alcohol, the marijuana, because there could be a higher risk. We did see in the early 2000s young people coming into treatment that were just started using prescription drugs, and we started screaming on the county and state level because that concerned us a lot because we know that narcotics are physiological addiction. So some of the signs of opiate use you will see significant changes in the physical appearance in terms of weight loss, looking lethargic and sleepy. The pupils will be very pinpointed. There's a decrease in respiration, so you may see nodding that is out of place, like at a time when they're really not tired. A loss of appetite, unexplained weight loss or gain, flu-like symptoms. If they stop they stop using, you'll see vomiting, nausea, sweating. And people will try to tell you they have the flu, but they'll get the flu like every couple of weeks, which really isn't how people get the flu. So they may be using opiates and inactively. These are just general signs, behavioral signs. Now again, we're talking about adolescents, so adolescents have changes in their attitudes and behaviors and how they do or don't deal with life and us, we know that. So we're looking at the whole combination and the whole gamut, not just one thing. So you'll see some, what we would refer to as abrupt changes. Changes in their friends, in the places they go, the places they hang out. You may see a drop in their grades, in their work performance. If they have a job, they may be losing jobs. They may be getting in trouble in school where they didn't get in trouble before. Moody, irritable, nervous, and giddiness. Now,
they're kids, so they can be doing all those things because they're having fun. But again, you want to look at the combination of things, isolation and secretive behavior. Again, we want to be careful because we know that there's some prevalence of mental health issues, some depression that could happen, some anxiety that could happen as part of being a teenager growing up in today's world. So we want to be able to be aware that is this a mental health issue, is it a substance abuse issue, or is it just normal growing up that our child is going to go through. When it comes, stealing will often happen as part of progression of drug use, because if they're not selling drugs to use drugs, they may be stealing your stuff or your other family member's stuff to sell to buy drugs. When people use heroin, if they're shooting heroin, it would not be uncommon to see them wearing long sleeves in a season that is really not appropriate for long sleeves. So that might be a clue that there's something wrong. Some signs in terms of prescription drug use is you may find medication missing. That's why it's important to lock it, inventory it, count it, and know what you have. If you find burnt spoons or bottle caps around, cotton, syringes, little bags that I showed you, missing shoelaces or belts, people use that to tie up to shoot drugs. And opiates are not the only drugs that people shoot. People liquefy and shoot cocaine as well. So those are some of the warning signs on combatheroin.com, combatheroin.ny.gov. There's a wealth of information about the warning signs for just regular substance abuse or opiate-specific substance abuse. We provide information and referral and are here to help in any way. Our website has a lot of information on it. Feel free to call us. Your administration knows how to find us. Some of you in this room are on our coalition and know us well.
You can look us up on Facebook and follow us on there. We try to keep current on what's going on. We post articles for parents and tips and trends. So if you just search the Prevention Council of Putnam, we're on there.
We have 2 pages, the Prevention Council of Putnam and the Putnam Communities That Care Coalition, and it's very interactive. We keep up to date on all different kinds of trends and health and wellness related issues. There's also a blog on our website about current events and things happening related to these behaviors. So also we wanted to list on here, New York State has a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline that someone can call to find treatment resources. It's also a text line. Those are manned by licensed professionals, and they can tell you where to go to treatment any time of day, as well as the website. That is a bed availability link, findaddictiontreatment.ny.gov. We could pull that up right now, go online and say I have an 18-year-old female in Putnam County within 50 miles. Where can I find a bed, or where can I find an outpatient treatment program? So those are really, I have those resources in my phone, not just because of what I do, but because you never know when someone you know is going to talk to you about a problem they may be having with a friend or family member, or even their own problem. So I want to have that resource available. It's literally at your fingertips now.
And all this is on our website, so you don't have to write it all down.
And that's it. It's a tool. This is a tool for you to know and recognize things that, how many of you saw things that you never saw before and didn't know before? Tell your friends. It's important to know, as are the behavior signs and symptoms, as are the community resources.
I just have a question. What is it with the dabbing? So is it just regular, instead of rolling it, is it they dabbing and putting it in?
They're liquefying it and making it into wax.
So it looks like earwax.
It looks like earwax. They vaporize it.
Right.
It's paraphernalia, it's paraphernalia.
And
it's a
concealment
process.
with no smell and no smoke. That's the perfect storm, because there's no way for us to detect it. Once we see them, once the school sees them, they're in the act, even in a minute.
And ask your young people if they know what it is, because what we find is when parents ask, and that doesn't mean your young people are doing it, but they may know about it. And they'll tell you. And look it up. Look it up. There is a fact sheet that we can send to you guys, to put on a resource page about some of these things as well. Anybody else?
What is this USB port? They're heating up the oils in the USB port?
No, they're charging their device. So the Juul is actually a charge, like a cell phone. Right, or you can take this out and charge it in here in an outlet anywhere. And that's what makes it work. So it's like battery operated.
Yeah.
And just remember, we want to intervene on any kind of mental health, alcohol, or substance abuse related issue. Everybody is not chemically dependent. There's a progression. So we want to intervene as early as we can to prevent the progression of the illness. And this is a preventable illness and a treatable illness. So that's why we want to try to be proactive. That's why we want to come and educate everyone about the trends and about the different things we learn and see. And we've been doing this a long time, but we learn something new all the time as well.
So if you find that your child has this paraphernalia, how do you do it? Like, what's the best way to do it?
You need to talk to them about it. You need to, and if they tell you it's not mine, or if they tell you it's something that it's not, make them know that you know what it is. We need to know what the paraphernalia is. We need to know what it is. We need to know what it does, and we need to have honest conversations about it. And go to your school guidance counselor if you need help. Go to a local treatment provider or a therapist. Whatever there are many pathways to recovery. So if your family is religious or spiritual, and there's a religious or spiritual organization or youth group that your family is connected to, or your young person is connected to, your family doctor. Some young people respond to interventions by their family doctor. The family doctor can do a drug test. Some will respond to therapy. Some will respond to their parents and tell the truth about trying it and stop. Again, there's a progression, and let's get them early. Talk about it, be honest, be open, and know what's going on, and don't fall for the "it's not mine" or "it's." I remember my own mom found like a Coke spoon, and she's like, "Oh, this is nice jewelry." Well, my mom didn't know what a Coke spoon was, but I wish she did, but she didn't. So I'm glad that you are all here to learn about what these things are, and use the resources that are available to you. There's a lot of resources in our community. If you know someone in your family or a friend who's a person in recovery and they're close to your child, get them involved. Know who your child is close to, who they will listen to. Is there someone that is important to them in their life who they'll listen to? Get that person to talk to them. There's so many different ways to intervene, but having an open, honest conversation is really the most important thing, and educating ourselves about what's going on. And also, our children learn the most by what we do, not what we say, so we need to be aware of our own attitudes and behavior when it comes to alcohol and substance abuse and other high-risk behaviors, because they're going to do what they see us do, and they do pay attention, and they do listen to us if we talk to them honestly and openly. And we're going to stick around because this takes a half hour to clean up. So if anybody has a private question.
The convention company is your website. That's where I can find the information for counseling and for picking the next steps.
There's like a resources tab on the website, and you can also call us. I mean, we're there during the day, but we provide that also on the phone, confidential, free, or you can go online anytime on our site. And like Doreen said, those links are live on our site. So if you wanted to see what's available, you can actually go on and put in the gender, age, what kind of service treatment you need or they need, and see what's available.
If you're just not sure what to do and you want to talk it through, we talk it through and we give options. And it's all confidential and free.
I noticed that this is being filmed. Are you guys, the educators, going to let the parents that didn't come know when this is going to be on the channel? Because I think it's really important that...
That's why we're doing it.
Well, I know
Yeah,
that, but
so-
are you making sure, like, I know the text went out, but it was funny how one of my friends said, oh, I didn't get the text.
Well,
Like,
we've sent it out. It wasn't. We've sent
I know
text.
that,
We've
but
sent
what I'm saying as
because
far
this
as
is so important.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean it's disappointing when that we don't have as many parents here, but certainly this is one of the vehicles for making this information available to parents. So. Everything that Doreen and Kristen have said since downstairs, Frankie here has videoed, and it'll be on our website as soon as he's completed it.
And tell your friends. If you learn something and you think what we're talking about is important, let your friends know and tell them that it would be a great idea for them to check it out and watch it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.